Imagine two neighbors, both retired, living side by side on the same quiet street. Margaret is 74. Her neighbor Joan just turned 75 last month. They both worked hard their whole lives, they both paid their taxes, and they both receive the same government pension, old age security. But this month, when their payments arrived, Joan's was about $75 larger than Margaret's. Same street, same pension, same everything, except Joan had a birthday. And that one birthday, turning 75, quietly earned her almost $900 more a year for the rest of her life. Now here's the part that troubles me. A great many seniors in Joan's position never notice the raise arrived, never understand why, and, in the rare cases where it doesn't arrive on its own, never think to ask about it. So today, I'm going to make sure you're not one of them. I'll explain exactly what this raise is, where it came from, how much it's really worth in 2026, how it works alongside your other benefits and your taxes, and the one simple thing you should do the month after your 75th birthday to make certain you're getting every dollar you're owed. My name is Naomi Ashford, and on this channel, I break down the financial rules that affect Canadian seniors clearly, calmly, and in plain language. No jargon, no scare tactics, no runaround. If that's the kind of help you've been looking for, take a moment to subscribe, because these amounts and rules shift every few months, and I'll always keep you up to date. All right, let's get into it. Before we talk about the raise itself, let me take 30 seconds for anyone who's newer to all of this, because it makes everything after it clearer. Old Age Security, OAS for short, is a monthly pension from the federal government for seniors age 65 and over. It's different from the Canada Pension Plan. You don't pay into OAS directly the way you pay into CPP through your working years. Instead, it's funded out of general tax revenue, and what you receive is based mainly on your age, your income, and how long you've lived in Canada as an adult. If you've lived here for at least 40 years after the age of 18, you're generally entitled to the full pension. If it's less than 40 years, you may receive a partial pension, scaled to the time you've been here. For most people, OAS begins automatically the month after they turn 65. And that word, automatically, is going to come up again, because it's really the theme of today's good news. Now, to the milestone. When you reach the age of 75, your old age security pension permanently increases by 10%. Let me be very clear about that word, permanent, because it's what makes this so valuable. This is not a one-time bonus check. It is not a temporary top-up that expires at the end of the year. It is a 10% increase to your monthly pension that becomes your new normal and stays with you for the rest of your life. Where did it come from? Back in July of 2022, the federal government brought this increase into law for all seniors aged 75 and over, and the reasoning behind it was genuinely thoughtful. As we move deeper into our retirement years, into our late 70s and 80s, our expenses often climb rather than fall. More prescriptions, more visits to specialists, more help needed around the house, sometimes home care or mobility aids. At the same time, whatever personal savings we started retirement with are more likely to be thinning out. So the government recognized that the oldest seniors, the ones most exposed to rising costs and dwindling savings, could use a little more support. This 10% boost was their answer. And here is what I find so wonderful about it, and what catches so many people by surprise. You do not have to apply for it. There's no form to hunt down, no office to visit, no phone number you must call, no box to tick. The month after your 75th birthday, Service Canada simply adds the 10% to your payment. If you're already receiving OAS, it just appears in your account. You can't miss the deadline because there is no deadline. You can't fill out the form wrong because there is no form. For once in your dealings with government, the system quietly does the work on your behalf. In fact, this echoes how OAS often begins in the first place. Many Canadians are enrolled automatically at 65, and Service Canada usually sends a letter around your 64th birthday letting you know your pension is on the way. That said, I want to add one honest caution here, because it applies to a smaller group of you. Not everyone is enrolled automatically at 65. If Service Canada didn't have enough information to sign you up on their own, you may have needed to apply yourself. So if you're approaching 65 and you haven't received any letter from them by about a month after your 64th birthday, It's worth signing in to your My Service Canada account or giving them a call to make sure you haven't been missed. But if you're already receiving OAS today, none of that applies to the 75 boost. That part is automatic for absolutely everyone. So let's talk about what this raise is actually worth in real dollars. And let me explain why the number isn't a tidy, round figure. Old age security is reviewed 4 times every year: in January, in April, in July, and in October. At each of those reviews, the payment is adjusted to keep pace with the cost of living, measured by something called the Consumer Price Index. Essentially, a measure of how much the everyday things you buy have gone up in price. That's why your OAS creeps upward over time, and why the exact amount shifts a little from one quarter to the next. As of this current period, from July through September of 2026, the maximum monthly OAS for a senior aged 65 to 74 is about $752. And for a senior 75 and over, the maximum is about $827 a month. Look at the gap between those two figures, roughly $75 a month. That gap is your 10%. Over a full year, that's in the neighborhood of $900 of additional pension simply for having reached 75. And just to show you how these quarterly adjustments add up over time, earlier this very year, that 75 and over maximum was closer to $814. A few months of cost of living increases nudged it up to $827. There's one more comforting detail about these adjustments that a lot of seniors don't know, and it's worth saying plainly. These reviews can only ever move your payment up or leave it the same. If the cost of living were to fall, your OAS would not be cut. It simply holds steady, waiting, until prices rise again and it resumes climbing. Your pension has a floor under it. It does not go backwards. In a world where so much feels uncertain, that's a genuinely reassuring thing to know about the money you count on. Now, here's a question I get from the more financially savvy among you. What if I delayed starting my OAS? Because you're allowed to. You can choose to defer your old age security for up to 5 years past 65, and for every month you wait, your eventual payment grows by 0.6%, which adds up to as much as 36% more per month if you hold off all the way to age 70. And if that's you, if you deferred and you're now receiving a larger enhanced OAS, I have good news. The 10% boost at 75 is calculated on top of your already enhanced amount. It stacks. So deferring earlier and then reaching 75 later both work in your favor, one after the other. You don't lose the 75 boost by having waited. You add it to a pension that was already bigger. Now, I always promise to be straight with you, so let me turn to 2 things this raise does not change. Not to worry you, but so nothing ever takes you by surprise. The first is taxes. Old age security is taxable income. This isn't unique to the 75 boost. OAS has always been taxable. But it's honest to point out that because your pension is now 10% larger, the amount you report at tax time is a touch larger too. For the great majority of seniors, that's nothing to lose sleep over. But it leads us to the second thing, which deserves a proper explanation, because it's the one part of OAS that genuinely trips people up: the recovery tax, better known as the clawback. Here's how the clawback works, in plain terms. If your income climbs above a certain threshold, the government begins to claw back part of your OAS, 15 cents for every dollar you earn over that line. For the payment period running from July of 2026 through June of 2027, that line sits at about $93,454 of net income. Let me put real numbers to it so it's concrete. Suppose a senior has a net income of around $105,000 a year. That's roughly $12,000 above the threshold. 15% of that $12,000 is about $1,800, so that senior would have to repay around $1,800 of their OAS over the year, which works out to roughly $150 less each month. And if income climbs high enough, OAS can be clawed back entirely. For seniors 75 and over, that full cutoff in 2026 is up around $157,000 a year. Now, I want to keep this in perspective because I don't want to alarm the many of you this will never touch. The clawback only affects seniors with relatively high incomes. If you're living on a modest pension, this simply isn't your concern, and you can breathe easy. But if you are in that higher income group, it's worth knowing there are perfectly legal, sensible ways to manage it. For example, drawing income from a tax-free savings account, since TFSA withdrawals don't count as taxable income, or splitting eligible pension income with a spouse to bring each person's net income down. Those are good conversations to have with whoever prepares your taxes. All right, enough about taxes. Let me give you a piece of pure good news, and it's an important one, especially for seniors on a lower income. If you receive the Guaranteed Income Supplement, the GIS, that monthly tax-free top-up paid on top of OAS to lower-income seniors, you might reasonably worry that a bigger OAS could shrink your GIS. It's a fair worry because many benefits are income-tested and do interact with one another. But in this case, you can set that worry aside completely. The 10% OAS increase at 75 does not reduce your GIS. The two are calculated separately, and this particular boost was deliberately designed so it would not claw back a single dollar of your supplement. So for our lowest income seniors, this really is the simplest kind of good news. More money in your pocket with nothing taken away in return. Now, before I give you your one action for today, let me clear up a few common myths and mistakes because I hear these all the time, and they cause real, needless worry. The first is a stubborn old rumor that the age to start OAS was raised to 67. Years ago, back in 2012, there was indeed a plan to gradually push the eligibility age from 65 up to 67. But that plan was canceled by the federal government in 2016. The starting age for OAS is, and remains, 65. So if you've been carrying around a vague dread that you'd have to wait until 67, you can let it go right now. The second myth is the belief that you must apply for the 75 boost. As we've covered, you don't. It's automatic. The third is a practical mistake, and it's the most avoidable one of all: not keeping your information current with Service Canada. If you've moved or changed banks and your address or your direct deposit details are out of date, your payments, including any increase, can be delayed or sent to the wrong place. It takes about 5 minutes to update, and it saves a great deal of frustration. And one more, for those who spend part of the year outside Canada or are thinking about it, your OAS can be affected by how many years you've lived in Canada and by whether you're living abroad long term. So if that's your situation, confirm the residency rules for your specific case rather than assuming. So here is your one clear action from today's video. And for most of you, it's simply a confirmation, not a chore. If you have recently turned 75, take 5 minutes and check your payment. The easiest way is to sign into your My Service Canada account online, where you can see your pension amount and your payment history laid out clearly. If you're not set up online, you can simply look at your bank deposit or the statement Service Canada mails you and compare it to what you were receiving before your birthday. If your OAS went up the month after you turned 75, wonderful. You're all set. Everything is working exactly as it should, and now you understand precisely why it happened. But if you turned 75 and your payment looks unchanged, that is your cue to pick up the phone and call Service Canada at 1-800-277-9914 and ask them to look into it. It is almost always automatic, but you are your own best advocate, and there is no harm and potentially real money in a single 5-minute call. Let me also quickly tell you when to expect your money, since knowing the rhythm helps you spot anything out of place. OAS is paid monthly, usually in the last week of the month, and it lands on the very same dates as the Canada Pension Plan. So your OAS and your CPP arrive together once a month, like clockwork. If a payment ever doesn't appear when you expect it, that's worth a call as well. Let me put that extra money into perspective for a moment, because 10% can sound abstract until you picture it. That roughly $900 a year is a real, tangible amount. For some of you, it's a couple of months of groceries. For others, it covers your phone and internet for the better part of a year, or a good chunk of your winter heating, or those prescriptions that never seem to stop adding up. It isn't a fortune, and I'd never pretend it is. But for a senior on a fixed income, an extra $75 arriving every single month reliably for the rest of your life is exactly the kind of steady breathing room that turns a tight month into a manageable one. That's precisely why it's worth making sure you actually receive it. And while we're on the practical side of things, Let me mention two small housekeeping steps that make everything smoother, whatever your age. The first is to register for a My Service Canada account if you haven't already. It's free, and it's the single easiest way to see your OAS amount, check your payment dates, confirm the 75 boost has landed, and update your details if anything ever changes. The second is to make sure you're set up for direct deposit rather than paper checks. The federal government is steadily moving away from mailing checks altogether, and direct deposit means your money lands in your account on time, every time, with nothing to get lost in the mail. You can set that up online through your account or by calling Service Canada at that same number, 1-800-277-9914. So let's bring the whole picture together, because for all the detail, the heart of it is beautifully simple. When you turn 75 in Canada, your old age security pension permanently rises by 10%. Right now, in 2026, that's the raise that lifts the maximum from about $752 a month to about $827. It is automatic. There is no form to file and no deadline to miss. It is for life. It stacks on top of your amount even if you deferred your pension. It does not reduce your GIS. It is taxable, and the clawback still applies, but only to higher incomes. And the single most useful thing you can do is a quick check the month after your birthday to confirm the raise actually arrived. That's it. That's the whole thing. Before you go, may I ask one small favor? If you know someone approaching 75, a friend, a neighbor like Margaret, a brother or a sister, a parent, please share this video with them. So many people have no idea this raise even exists, and being able to tell them your pension is about to go up and here's exactly why is a genuinely kind thing to do. And if you found this helpful, do subscribe, because next time I'm tackling one of the biggest money decisions any Canadian retiree faces, the smartest age to start your CPP, 60, 65, or 70, and the surprising math that so many people get wrong. Until then, take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.